Hi, this is a tutorial for sacristans, and I'm just going to walk through what I normally do when I get here and show you all the duties that a sacristan does. So the first thing, normally Deacon Paul will be here if it's a Sunday morning, the early Mass at 8:30, he'll be here, and in that case then the doors will be open and the lights will be turned on. But just in case they're not, we'll walk through everything. So the first thing when you come through the door is you turn on this light switch right here, and then another light switch right here. I like to make a counterclockwise circle, and for me it just keeps me more organized, just doing that circular pattern rather than kind of hopscotching around. So I turn on the lights here, these lights, and there's a light right around the corner, and there is this light right here. We then go over by the steps, and there's a light switch behind the cross. If you can reach it, turn this one on. That turns on the lights up above here. Then we'll go and we'll unlock the door. We just unlock the door on the left. So normally it's like this. This is in the lock position. To unlock it, you push it in, take your Allen wrench, put it in the hole, turn it clockwise, and then it's unlocked. So I will just, the ushers usually lock all the doors, which later on you want to go around and double check, and just in case they haven't, then you just do this in reverse. Then we go down the steps here and turn on this switch for in the basement. Back up the steps, go ahead, keep going counterclockwise, turn on the switch on the right here, which turns these lights on. And then you can also turn on this light. We'll come through the double doors here, and then you can open them up. I turn on this light switch, and then I turn on this light switch and unlock the door. I want to show you, for later on when Mass is done, the sacristan, if the ushers don't, the sacristan will open up both of these doors. And the door on the right has a locking mechanism at the top and down at the bottom, and it just opens up. And so then we open the doors all the way like this. On Saturday Masses, when we have a Saturday Mass, we'll be having confession before Mass. Now normally the confessional will be set up by Peggy ahead of time, but just in case it isn't, I'm going to show you how to set it up. So the screen is right back here next to the table. And it goes in here between the two chairs. And you just have to set it so that it balances. Then the next thing to do is to close the shades, or the blinds. After the priest is done doing confessions, most of our priests, Father Tom and Father Kevin, will remove the shade and put it, or the screen, and put it back. But if we have a guest priest, he wouldn't know what to do. So then you can just come in here, and the first thing you would do is to open the blinds up. And then just fold up the screen And now we'll go to the front of church. I always check to see if this door is unlocked. All you need to do is turn the knob. Then later on, to lock it, you make sure you pull it tight because this door doesn't like to shut all the way. Push the knob in, push the button in. The next thing I do is I go and check in the tabernacle to see how many posts we have available. This is the ciborium, and when I look at here, there appears to be about 100 hosts. So that gives me an idea of how many more I'm going to need to put in. Many times the table will be set with some of the bowls and things that are used during Mass, but I will show you how to set it up just in case it's not. While we're here, we can look at the books to make sure that they're set right. Here is the lectionary, and it's always set to now this is the 29th Sunday coming up this weekend. It's always set to the right weekend. If you're unsure, if you're just not sure, check on the bulletin. It will have someplace in there, it will say which Sunday it is. So check that book, and then you check Father's book right here. Make sure it's set. Just check the purple ribbon to make sure that that's on the right day, which it is. Close it up. Make sure that this is in the altar, about in the middle. Our priests are tall, and apparently when they bend, sometimes if it's too close, they bang their head on it. So we don't want that happening. And then one more book to check in here, and that is the Book of Gospels. When you come in here, this is where the light switch panel is. Here's the sacristy. Just turn on all the lights. Make sure these little buttons are all the way up. This light, this light. Here is the button for the sound system. Turn that up. So here is the drawer where the linens are for Mass. You will need 2 towels, 1 corporal, and 2 of the bigger cloths. Let's just walk through a setup. They'll always be on this tray here. A lot of times there won't be this many because some of them will already be out on the credence table. But I just want to walk through what everything is. This is a water pitcher, another water pitcher. This is the pitcher for wine. They're both the same size, they're interchangeable. This is a little water bowl for the communion ministers to dip their fingers after communion. This is the bowl for Father to cleanse his hands. This is a bowl for the hosts, along with these 2. You got the chalice, and you have the paten, which goes on top. I will show you how to set up everything. So let's say I'm setting up for the Mass this Sunday. We have about 100 hosts in there. With our numbers lately, I think I'm just going to put in like another 50 more. In each of these rolls is 100 hosts. So last week some were used out of this one. I could go through and count them, which a lot of times I've done, but in this instance I'm just going to measure, and that's about 75. So I'd put all of these in the bowl. They all go right in the large bowl. Then up above here, right here in this small box, is the host that the priest uses. You take out one of these. And that will go on the paten. The wine is kept in the refrigerator over here. It's always mixed up ahead of time. You don't have to worry about that. And they just keep it in a little pint jar. And we're only putting in, a half an inch at the most, because it's just So that much, about 1/4 of an inch. Because it's just Father and Deacon that are drinking the wine now. That goes on the tray. Then in these 2 pitchers go water. Okay, so now we're going to take this out to church. Now this tray can get quite heavy, so if you want, and what I usually do, is to just carry the vessels out separately. In the kitchen room, there is a book, a white binder, that shows the exact placement of all the vessels on the credence table. So you can always refer to that if you forget where something is supposed to go. The chalice goes right in the middle with the cross facing forward. Then you put a corporal, which goes with, if it has a cross on it, that goes face down. Paten with the large host goes on top. And if there is a cross on this, that goes face down too, and that goes right on top here. With the towel and water. I always pour some water in here, and then this bowl goes over here with the towel, and this is for the community ministers to dip their fingers. Normally I don't bring out the bowl with the hose or the wine. I don't bring them out on the tray. I just did that for ease of videoing. So what you would do is you take one of the bigger cloth and cover the hose, because we don't want any foreign debris to get into there. Then we will take these 2 to the back of church, and they are placed on this table here. Now when it's offertory time, and the ushers before Mass will find someone to bring up the gifts. So during offertory, they will be busy with the collection. So the people that are bringing up the gifts will come back here, and then you hand one person the wine, they're on the left, and the person with the host will be on the right. The wine goes to deacon, the bread goes to Father. And if you can tell them when they take their gifts up, if they could pause just for a moment after they hand the gifts to the deacon and the priest, to pause just a moment, they will both turn around, and then all 4 of you bow at the same time. Now we'll go and check to see who's scheduled for this Mass. Peggy will always have this book out. It lists, it's a sign-in sheet, so people can sign in as they come. There'll always be a schedule right here, so you can see who's scheduled. And if you need to find somebody, say, like this next weekend, October 22nd and 23rd, on the 22nd, we don't have any ushers right now. So that tells me that I'm going to have to try and find some people to be ushers, which isn't a hard thing to do. In this closet is a key that opens up all of the interior doors. So you will need it for opening up the office door and the door where the safe is. And then always make sure that you put it back on the tack in the closet. Here is the binder that I mentioned, Sacristan. It'll always be on the counter here. And here is the setup for the credence table. Right up here it shows you where everything needs to go. So if you have any questions.
Okay.
Also in this binder, it actually walks through everything that we have done today. So if you have any questions at all, like here in the cupboard, which I'll go and show, are different things for the baptism, for different special masses. So this is how the credence table will look after Mass. Normally the communion ministers will clean all the vessels, but just in case, if you happen to be a communion minister or the communion ministers just are unable to clean the vessels, then that will be your job to clean that up. So we'll take the linens, and you can bring this tray will go back into the kitchen where it was in the beginning, and then you can, after Mass, you bring it out. So this is where the dishes are done. In here are towels, washcloths. You can lay out a big towel for everything to drain on. You would probably have someone helping you, but if you don't, it's not a big job. Underneath here is the dish detergent. Just, give it a little squirt. If there's any extra wine, which there shouldn't be, but if there is, it needs to be dumped into this special sink that the drain goes right into the ground. You don't ever want to pour any consecrated wine down a regular drain. So then you just, run some water, wash your dishes, dry them, and then we'll put them back in the kitchen. The soiled linens will then go back into the sacristy, into the second drawer, and there's someone that does the laundry. Then it's just a matter of waiting till everyone leaves. The ushers should lock the doors, but you want to double check them anyways. You can turn off the lights in the church and just kind of do another counterclockwise circle just to make sure all the lights are shut off and the doors are closed. I always like to close the door that goes into church and close all the doors. It's better for fire safety. You would go back then and just turn off all the lights, make sure that the microphone is off, the sound system. There will probably be a time when there is a baptism, and usually it's set up ahead of time, but if there's a Saturday Mass and the baptism is on Sunday, then it won't be set up. So you may have to set that up, and so I'll show you what needs to be done with that. Here is the baptismal font. So this will need to be carried out. I'm not going to carry it out right now, but I'll show you where it goes. Carry the pieces separately. The base is very heavy, but it is doable. I'm able to do it. So, and then also the baptismal candle needs to come out. And again, I would suggest doing that in 2 pieces. Be very, very careful when you lift up the candle. I hang on to it with one hand. This is quite heavy. So then it goes back in. If you are careful, very careful, you can lift this up and lean it against the wall. It will stand up. Then carry the base out and then carry the candle out. So the baptismal font goes right in the center of the altar, right here on the edge. And then the baptismal candle goes right here with the numbers facing towards the congregation. The candle needs to be lit before Mass, and before Mass, about 10 minutes before, you need to bring hot water out and put in the baptismal font. The pitchers are in the kitchen, in this cupboard up here. I use 6 pitchers of water, so you just make 3 trips out there. Then when Mass is done, the water has to be taken out. This water can't be just dumped down a drain because it is blessed. So it could either be dumped down the special sink in the other room where that goes right into the ground, or you can take it out the side door and dump it on the grass. And now I want to just pose a couple of scenarios for you, or just ask you a question. Say Mass has started already, and all of a sudden you remember that you forgot to do something really important. What do? Well, this happened to me twice, just recently. The first one had to do with the baptismal font. We had a guest priest. Deacon wasn't here. Rose was assisting him. And I had the baptismal font out there, but I forgot to put water in it. And it was about 5 minutes into Mass, and all of a sudden I realized there was no water for the baptism. So after a moment's panic, I calmed myself down and I just thought, when is the best time to put the water in the baptismal font? So I thought about it, and I figured right after the priest was done doing the homily. So in this instance, I didn't want to make multiple trips out there, so I just filled 2 pitchers with hot water, and I stood in the sacristy and waited until he was done speaking, and then I just quietly opened the door and slowly went out and just dumped the water in the baptismal font like this was totally normal, came back and quietly closed the door. No one knew the difference. I mean, I did, but no one else knew the difference. Another thing that happened once, and this might have been at Easter time, we had, Deacon was going to use was going to incense everything. And I had it all out there set up, and I will show you what that is. But I forgot to light the incense. Well, he was going to do this before he read the gospel. What do? Again, a moment's panic. But then I thought, okay, I need to fix this. So I just thought, well, between the readings would probably be the best time to go out there and nonchalantly just light the incense. And so that's what I did when the lector was done with her first reading and she went to sit down. I just quietly went out there and lit the incense, and just came back in here like, this was normal. It actually worked out really well because the incense then lasted all through Mass, whereas otherwise it would have gone out before then. But what I'm saying is, if all of a sudden you realize that you forgot to do something that's really important, just keep yourself calm and think about it. How and when should you best fix the problem? And you'll be able to, but you just need to stay calm. And like Lynn would always say, if you make a mistake, just act like you didn't. Correct the mistake, but just don't act like you made a mistake. Okay. So in this cupboard right behind the door, we have the sprinkling bowls for when Father, like after a baptism, Father will sprinkle everyone with this. This is where the bowls are. And sometimes they'll use the bells. They're in this cupboard. Here is another sprinkling bucket that is used, so sometimes that might be used. Most of the time, all of these extra things will be put out, and so you don't have to worry about it. But just in case somebody has an idea right at the last minute, you can find everything in here. Here are the candle snuffers that are used to put out the candles. Here also is the stand for incense. There's a little trick to doing this that I think it was Father Jason showed me how to do it. You hook the bottom part, then you hook the chain over the hook, and then it sits just like that. And in this cupboard are the supplies that you'll need for incense. Deacon will put, there's a small black charcoal-like disc that goes in the incenser here. And then in this little bowl, there is the accelerant that is sprinkled on right before he starts incensing. Before Mass starts, he will ask you to light the incense in the bowl here, and you just use a lighter like this to light it. Takes a little bit to, you have to hold it on there for 5-10 seconds, and you'll see it start to spark and ignite. Also in this cupboard are the picks, which you will need. One of the things that the sacristan does now is give communion to the music ministers after communion is done. So I will show you how that is done. So if you're just a sacristan, you would come up in the communion line with everyone else, and you would ask the deacon or the priest for the number of hosts that you need for the music ministers. They would put them in the picks, and then you would just go and sit down on one of those chairs, and then when deacon is all done cleansing the vessels after communion, and he goes and sits down, then the musicians will stop playing, and then you can get up and go over to them and just give them communion. If you were a communion minister also, and sacristan, you would, when you're finished with, at some point, when you get your own communion, you would ask for communion for the musicians, keep it in your pocket or set it on the credence table over there. And then when you're all done with communion, you would take your picks and sit down on the chair, and again, just wait until deacon is done cleansing the vessels. In this drawer are the bags that the ushers will use to put the collection in. If the ushers are unable to take care of the collection, or if there's only one usher and they need someone else to help, we always need 2 people to handle the money. So you would be here while they put the money in the bag. You would sign your name on the bag, and then it goes into the office in the safe, and the ushers know where that is. That's a reminder to the ushers too, or you should remind the ushers that they always need 2 people to handle the money all the way to the safe, and then just for everyone's safety. Second drawer has the microphones for deacon and for father. Normally they're out ahead of time, but just in case they're not, you can put those out. They know how to check to see if the batteries are working. Down here are reserve signs. Those you will probably be asked at some point to put out. So there's quite a few in here. And that's miscellaneous. In this cupboard here are the elves for the servers. And here are the chasubles for the priests. In this cupboard here, we have the extra vessels for communion. So if you happen maybe for a special mass, if you happen to need an extra bowl or an extra chalice, this is where you'd find them. Also in this cupboard, right on this nail, right inside the door here, is the key that is used for the tabernacle. And I will go out now and show you how that fits in. At the end of Mass, always remember to put the key back in the cupboard. And these are the different linens that are, so the stole that the priest uses for around his neck. Down here are table linens. But again, this isn't something that you'll have to do, but just in case someone would happen to, ask for it, you will know where it is. Most times you will be the last person to leave, or one of the last people, and so you'll need to lock up this door because the ushers probably won't lock it. On the first and third Sundays, we have Spanish Mass at 12:15. So you can leave the door unlocked, just this door, not any of the others. And even after the 8:30 Mass, you can still leave it unlocked. But for the other Sunday Masses and for the Saturday evening Masses, the door will always be locked. So I'm going to show you how to do it because it's a little different than the other lock. The key is over here. And to lock the door, this is what we do. And now the door is locked. Now if you have to unlock it, so the door would be in the lock position, you first put the key in, turn it, then push it in, and remove the key. And then the key goes back up on the bulletin board. Part of your job as sacristan is to make sure that all of the ministers are here. So that would be ushers, communion ministers, lectors, servers. If you find it's getting close to Mass and someone isn't here, the first thing that you would do is just go out and scan the congregation and see if there's anyone that you know of that could be an usher or whatever position is vacant. The next thing would be to mention it to deacon that your lector isn't here yet. And then he will take over as lector if the lector doesn't show up. As far as communion minister or usher, you can always fill in one of those roles. I would suggest that you you become trained to be a communion minister or an usher. Very simple roles, both of them. But always let deacon know what's going on. If you have any questions, if you don't understand something, if you don't know where something is, just ask him. He will be more than happy to help you. A lot of years ago, Sister asked me to talk about the duties of a sacristan. And I described the sacristan as kind of like the behind-the-scenes director of a most wonderful production. And that's what the sacristan does. They do everything either before Mass, after Mass, keep an eye on things during Mass, make sure that all the ministers are here and ready to work. If they have any questions, you're there to answer them. Another way to look at a sacristan is as a hostess or a host of a party or a gathering. And you want to welcome all your guests, you want to make your guests feel comfortable, you want to make sure that they have everything that they need. And so that's another way of looking at sacristan.